Good morning, Thida. Welcome to the TVB newsroom. Thanks for coming up. Zoom meeting. Thank you. So when I read your book, and I really feel that my child experience of wandering around in a maze and being unable to find a way out. Comparing Myanmar political process with no way out of a maze is a perfect symbol. And I think, whom do you think play a major role in this labyrinth?
Thank you. Indeed, I wrote a book, The Roadmap, and in that book, the final chapter is called Fork in the Road. And we were all thinking we were on the road to democracy, and whatever the obstacle is blocking us, we will overcome it. But during the past decades, we were a little bit confused. We still on the road to democracy, but after the 2021 coup attempt, we all started, not myself, a lot of people started saying, oh, it's U-turn. And I started thinking, okay, to call the country make a U-turn, we were at some point from point A to point B and then back to point A. That's mean the U-turn. But were we in point B? But it was not. We were perfectly locked up in the same point, but we were in a maze. We got lost in that, and mainly the culprit for having this maze is, I might say, the 2008 constitution, you know, the quasi-civilian, very strange political structure, making us not perfect reconciliation, nor a hint of reconciliation, something like that. But the problem is not from that past decade. The problem is from very, very long time. Someone's who prefer their own interest, their own benefit, instead of the interest for the general interest, the country's interest, people's interest. They started using the political platform and the political power to make them benefit, not for the people, not for the country too. So this is the culprit behind for this, the very complicated maze. It seems like no exit out of it. So for that reason, I think the real culprit is so many layers, so many things, and some of us, the powerless people, are also even and reinforcing the walls of this maze.
Thank you. And also you describe very detailed and precise information about the Spring Revolution. So that's what I noticed in your book. And also this Spring Revolution emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic, when Thida and Narcissus first joined the CDM movement. And some scholars criticize that by doing so, these medical personnel are breaking the ethic of the medical personnel. And you know, there are also some people, very important person like Ucho Mothon, UN ambassador to Myanmar, also joined the CDM movement. So how was the Spring Revolution different from previous revolutions in Myanmar, and how important was the role of civil servants who participated in the Spring Revolution?
Compared to the other struggle and revolution or the movement, this 2021 Spring Revolution is pretty much unique. Why? Compared to 1988, there was the movement about the civil disobedience. It includes a couple of the civil servants joined this movement, but it didn't last long. Soon after the coup, they just having under so much pressure because of we don't have the open market economy. So most of them are the only assets of the state's infrastructure. So if they don't get the job anymore from these states, they lost everything. For that reason, a lot of the civil servants rejoined back to the office, something like that. But in 2021, because of the we were in a maze and during these past decades, people started noticing about their role, the role of the people. They really understand the role of the fifth pillar of the country, you know. So by doing that, people having so much confidence, and people also becoming more decisive, and people really believe in the participatory approach for the sake of the country. For that reason, when they do the civil disobedience movement, a lot of people join, and it lasted until today. Some of these CDM still keep practicing their disobedience movement until today. And on top of that, the real aim for the medical personnel doing this civil disobedience movement is not to deny the right to health care, not to make anybody in danger of having lack of the health care by their service. They were thinking of independent parallel healthcare systems to provide even free of charge or something for the benefit of the people. But because of the atrocities and because of the arbitrary arrest, because of the very, very nasty treatment by the SAC, these medical personnel who did the civil disobedience movement cannot give any proper free healthcare services to the people. So that's the reason. For that reason, it's not aiming for unethical decision. It's just aiming for having a different way, since they cannot serve for this military government. So they're just thinking of the different way of the healthcare services. But I think in these days, they try to do their best during by the tele healthcare system, something like that. And even on the ground, we now have so many different healthcare services by the revolutionary groups, not through the military services. So that's one thing. And as you said, the Ambassador U Chomotron, I think most of the high-ranking civil servants are also sharing the spirits of the believing their role in building up the community, building up the country. So for that reason, they perceive themselves no more as the government servants, but the people's servants or the country's servants, something like that. For that reason, their dedication is not to follow all the instructions by the current power holder, nor the current government, so-called government, something like that. So for that reason, they really aim for working for the people, for the benefit of the people. They still need to do this kind of thing. So that's why I think the real reason is the people strongly believe their role and they practice it. So that's the real difference compared to the other revolution. The 2021 Spring Revolution has its unique style in this.
Thank you. And also in the early days of Spring Revolution, there were criticism that the State Councilor Aung San Suu Kyi and the elected entity government didn't prepare anything, even though they knew the coup would happen. What do you think about those criticisms?
I'm the one who also really surprised that there is no proper kind of the consensus on the what to respond when it happens, because we all noticed that, you know, there is very clear message already we got since 2015. You know, after the general election in 2015, there was so much rumors that the military won't, not military, the USDP won't transfer the power to the winning party NLD, and there are so many facts proving that, the way they handle for the transport of the power, it's very, very different way, very nasty way. A lot of the high-ranking minister level and the high-ranking civil servants, when they need to leave their house granted by the states, they just grab everything they wanted, or they destroy a lot of the documents, something like that. So there was no signs of the willingness to transfer the power to NLD since 2016. So in this, just after the 2020 general election, there are so many rumors, and I think the NLD leadership and a lot of people just simply believe that 2008 constitution have no proper article or the clause to make this happen. The way the current military coup make this happen is not exactly follow the instructions from the 2008 constitution. They just diverted, or they just manipulated some of the sections and the articles in order to giving them this chance. That's why they just need to extend their term every 6 months, something like that. It's still arbitrarily, it's still not according to the proper 2008 constitution articles. So for that reason, the NLD leadership might thinking, okay, with this, without the consensus from the president at that time, Win Myint, it cannot be happen easily. So for that reason, they still believe I believe, okay, that might not be the question for having this kind of the coup, something like that. So, but it happened, and I'm also wonder, why don't they have a proper plan to face it, to respond it? Till now, I don't have enough information about how did they plan and how all the members of the party or the parliamentarians are asked what to do. There is no proper instructions from the NLD leadership. I'm really surprised.
Yeah, it's true. Many people also still don't know why that happened. And, after the SAC arrested all the cabinet members, including Daw Aung San Suu Kyi and President Win Myint, soon after, the NLD party was dissolved. And you also mentioned that the dissolution of a political party is also a threat to other political institutions. And one point you mentioned about decentralized collective leadership. So when there is the leaders are arrested, the party is gone, and then these collective leadership came up, let's say. So do you think it's that kind of collective leadership work in the long run in the country, where the tradition of centralizing on one leader or one political party, can it be worked in the long run?
Sure, it is very challenging, because according to our experience in the past, people don't believe in their power. People have no thoughts about their role in terms of making the countries develop or they benefited. So they just, throughout the history, they just thinking of having leader, or they just looking for a savior. So they don't believe in their own power. That's why we do have a very strong history of having person-based, or leader/savior based political enthusiasm, something like that. So, but after this one decade, we got lost in this maze. But still, the good things about this is people started believing in their own power. People started believing on their own role, and they really want to practice their role. not just understanding about the role, but also practically practice their role is the key. So in this sense, for the very early stage of the Spring Revolution, the collective leadership has been very effectively making the collective forward movement. That was the real beauty of the early stage of the 2021 Spring Revolution. But by the time, when all the atrocities came up and people need to struggle too much because of the SAC arbitrary atrocities, and then the narratives of the individual identity politics is pretty much come up again. And for that reason, it's very challenging right now. We still believe the people still wants to practice their role, but some started using this as into the another challenging corner. For that reason, I'm not sure. Decentralization, it seems like very positive, but sometimes if it's too much decentralized, it's very challenging for having effective collaboration rather than cooperation. I think the problem is a lot of people started using the term cooperation rather than collaboration. They just want to wait and see, and then we will later cooperate with something like that. They don't want to let's do together. So that's kind of the real not positive side of the collective leadership is depending on how much different leader or different people willing to collaborate rather than wait and later cooperate.
Yeah, you also mentioned about that. This identity politics focus more on the distribution of absolute power among federal units based on equality, rather than on the distribution of power between the three pillars of democracy, such as the legislature, executive, or the judiciary. So can there be any place for a national unity government in a society where identity politics is flourishing?
It's very challenging, for the term national unity government. It had so many intention to making the unity among the diverse community. But instead, right now, the narratives of the identity-based politics is more related to the spirits of the power division rather than the power division based on the unit. It's more like the federalism is more like the structure-based power division. But for me, democracy is very important because it's the culture of power division. If you don't understand the culture of the power division, even though you have a structure of the power division structure, it cannot be lasted. It will end up in the another kind of the dictatorship or authoritarianism in one group of people. That's why I think the national unity government, the concept of this, it should be from the every group, let's collaborate and form this national unity government to move forward, something like that. But I'm afraid right now, a lot of narratives is not very in line with that and focusing more on the identity-based, structure-based future, something like that. So there is not much talking about the democratic culture to be implanted into the society. For that reason, the challenge ahead is how much the role of the national unity government and the promising future awaiting for this kind of the structure or not is really interesting forward step.
Yep. And you also portray the early stage of Spring Revolution as a soulful movement or spiritual revolution, whatever you call it, and that transcends differences of race, religion, ethnicity, party affiliation, education, or wealth. So is the spiritual revolution a new change emerging with the Spring Revolution? Or why do you think of that?
It's not very new indeed, but the way we portray the revolution itself is pretty new for me, because in the past, to against that military dictatorship is a very ground understanding, or everybody really join this concept. Everybody agree, whatever they don't agree each other, but we all agree on eliminating the military dictatorship. This is the basic concept all the time in our history. So for that reason, we all are getting together in the early stage of the Spring Revolution. But by the time when things has developed and happened and so much atrocities, people started confusing about how we can proceed. That's the real challenge right now. So I think for the current Spring Revolution is still spiritual. Why? In the past, people just believe in the leader or the savior, but now they believe in their own. For that reason, they keep the revolution from their individual end. Everybody decided to combat whatever the way they could afford. So it's not depending on the leaders, or it cannot be imposed by any group. So that's this kind of the spiritual revolution is very unique in that sense. But the basic understanding about the spiritual revolution against the dictators, and the one who exploited the countries and the society has been very strong. Only the shifted the spiritual understanding is people believe in their own role and they actually practice it.
Yeah, and what walls the Spring Revolution break down from the maze? Such as different walls you mentioned in the book, information wall, religious wall, or cultural wall, etc. What walls are left to tear down from the maze we're facing?
There are so many indeed. The war still remains in my views. The information, the disinformation, misinformation is handled by so many different groups still now. So we still truly need to combat it. So there are so many wars still remains, and for me, I think the maze was whoever built it. Without our reinforcement, these walls cannot be lasted. So for example, the wall we successfully keep tearing down is the military. The military was like the small country inside the big country. Small boat on the big boat, something like that. They really want to be exclusive. They just want to be protected by themselves. So they were behind this wall. They were pretty much don't want to be exposed. That's why, even though the conscription law has been written in very, very long time ago, but they started practicing, they started reinforcing and using this conscription law only when they feel they already been exposed. They need to open up their door, otherwise they cannot survive, something like that. But with the help of the watermelon, the informants inside the military, and with the help of the kind of the military combatants from the revolutionary groups, this wall has been now tearing down successfully and keep tearing down. Now we know more about the inner ugliness of the military. In the past, we don't really know what's going on inside. But right now, we know more detail about the inner ugliness of this military institution. So we having successfully tearing down this wall, but we still need to tearing down the other walls unless we cannot get back on the free road to democracy.
Very glad to hear that at least Spring Revolution could tear down the wall of the military. So do you think the Spring Revolution will tear down all the walls on the maze with no way out and rebuild a new political system? Or that will build or bring about new identity walls and new federal units walls, etc.? How do you think? How do you see the kind of new society the spiritual revolution will bring about?
If it is the true spiritual revolution, it will be really very beautiful, the road without any wall. But if the spiritual revolution is not fully established and people just not based on the simple sense of the humanity, rather than that, if people prefer the identity-based politics, we can still end up this kind of war, the identity war or some other war ahead, So that's the very challenging for every one of us, not just the laymen, not just the general public, but also the leaders of the revolution, every group, every single groups, If we don't really care about this, the basic humanity should be established and the culture of democracy should be established, we can still having this kind of the small or large different wars ahead to our destiny. What we truly need is, without focusing on any identity, we truly need is to have a basic human rights for every single human being, and the real essence of the human rights, that the true essence of human rights and humanity should be established. Otherwise, we still struggle. We will not be at ease. So that will be the real solution. That will be the sorry.
Well, thanks for your time for DVB, Sema Thida, and I hope we can tear down all the walls from the maze we've been facing in our life. Thank you so much, Sema.
Thank you so much. I hope so too. We need to tear down all the walls.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.